Welcome back to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grosbull, and joining me today is Lynne Williamson. Lynne lives in beautiful Colorado with her husband, Sean, and her three boys, Josh, Alex, and Grant, who are adulting in the real world. Lynne is also a 13-year breast cancer survivor. And last week, as of this recording, she celebrated her 10-year anniversary as an educator and director with Beauty Counter, the leading clean beauty brand in the US. She founded the Love Heals Project that donates chemo care kits to cancer survivors throughout the country. And she and her husband, Sean, also created the Bats for a Pure Youth Baseball Tournament held annually to support the Susan G. Komen, Colorado. Over the last 12 years, this event has raised over $200,000. Lynne knows that through trials, blessings also come if you look for them. So welcome, Lynne, to the show.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for sending me a bio. I don't get those very often, so it was nice to actually have something to read.
Of course.
So we're going to dive right in because based on everything that you shared with me, there's a lot that I want to get to. So first, take us back to 2010. Like, what were you doing? What was your life? What did your life look like when you received your breast cancer diagnosis?
Yeah, busy. I very, very busy. So it was in December of 2010 that I was diagnosed. I was in with my OBGYN for my annual checkup, and he had found a lump. And at that point, I had been, they had been watching me prior to that. And I was going in every 6 months for mammograms. And that May of 2010, I got my letter in the mail that said, "Hey, you're good to go. We'll see you in a year." And I was so happy and so relieved that I'd gotten that news, that they felt okay about everything after, just watching it for the last year and a half. And so
was
then
there a reason that they were watching it? Did you have a
it was
scare?
dense tissue, dense breast tissue, which I've heard so many women talk about. And so they were kind of watching that, I guess. My mom did have like stage 1 breast cancer in her probably early 60s. She did do hormone replacement and things like that. That's kind of what she feels happened to her, but we'll never know. I'll never know why I got it, nor will she. And at the time, in 2010, I was only 43. So very different diagnoses there for us.
Okay.
But in that December, he had said, "Gosh, I feel a lump. Can you, I'd like you to make an appointment and go down and get another follow-up mammogram." By the time I was dressed and was leaving his office, he met me in the hallway and he's like, "Will you go down there right now, actually, and make your appointment?" So I was,
Wow.
I was concerned, to say the least. And as we all know, that just gets things moving. You get your appointments and then biopsy, waiting for the results. So that 3 days after Christmas, I was diagnosed, gotten the call that I did, in fact, test positive for breast cancer.
So you went from May to December from nothing to stage 3.
Yes.
Wow. That's fast.
Very fast. Very, very fast. So, shocking to me, and they have these, I don't know if you've heard of this, but they have these board, is it called a board, where all the different doctors come in and they review like your case.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them looked at my mammogram from back in May and they're like, "Yeah, there's nothing there." They all agreed with that that letter should have gone out as it did. So again, I'll never know, but as we've talked about, there are so many blessings. It was the hardest time in my life, our lives, for my family, my boys at the time. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Still gets me.
Your boys were young at the time.
Yeah. So we had an 8 and 11 and a 14-year-old. Josh had just started high school, all the excitement there and things like that. And Thankfully, because of my family and friends, we were able to continue with that busy, active lifestyle. They were all in sports, all doing, the school and activities after school and sports and all the things. So my treatment ended up being a double mastectomy. I chose that for peace of mind, and it was the right decision for me. I ended up with 8 rounds of chemo over a 4-month period. And then I had a little bit of a break, and then I had to jump into 33 days maximum amount of radiation I could have. And
Wow.
I was probably finished with that, I believe, by the end of August,
Okay.
something like that. So, and then the next 2 years, I dealt with reconstructive surgeries. There were some complications and things like that. So, all in all, it was probably about a 2.5-year process, physical process. Some days it's still mental and emotional for me, as you can see, but
Yeah. Which is perfectly understandable
yeah,
and perfectly normal.
yeah,
And so, like, where do we sit today? Are we,
really
it's
good.
been 13 years. So
13
obviously,
years. Yep. I am, I see my oncologist annually. I think if I didn't want to do those appointments anymore, she would be okay with that. I just choose to go say hi
yeah.
annually and check in. I did do some recent genetic testing. I did it initially when I was first diagnosed because I wanted to understand, the whole BRCA gene information. If I had that, that would affect my, reproductive um, organs and things like, you have to make all those decisions. And so we gathered a lot of information, or as much as we could back then. In one of my recent meetings, I think it was a year or two ago with my oncologist, she said the genetic counseling and testing has come much farther, and she recommended I do that. So I did that. Still no signs of
Yeah.
genetic
Don't they
issues,
test for
which,
like 87 different genes or something
yes,
now? It's
I want to say,
ridiculous.
yeah, like I was going to say like 93 or
Okay.
86 or
Maybe even
something
more.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way. I honestly can't remember how many I tested for originally, but it was nowhere close to that. So that's peace of mind for me as well.
Well, and they say that, when I was diagnosed, because I have no history of cancer in my family at all. And my oncologist said that really only 5 to
Yes.
10% of cancers are genetic.
Yes.
And that just blew me away because it wasn't even on my radar
Yeah.
as a possibility when I
Yeah.
was diagnosed. So that was,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was peace of mind or not. Like, I'm recommending that my daughter get tested because who
Yeah.
knows what
Right.
she might have. But yeah, I never did the genetic testing and they didn't really recommend it
Yeah.
because I have no family history at
Yeah.
all. So,
Yeah.
right.
So, yeah, on the
Um,
phone call for the second genetic testing just recently, they gave that statistic.
yeah.
5 to 10% is genetic.
Which, like, really is a good thing because there's that 90 to 95% that we can work toward and doing the other things to help, keep it from happening. So it's
Yes.
not like you're a
Yes.
slave to your
Right.
genes kind of thing.
It gives us some control over our environments,
Right.
or as much as we can. There's things we can't control in our environment, but yes,
There's so
there's
much that we
definitely things
can.
we can do.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
absolutely.
which is
Um,
encouraging.
so you mentioned like you really had a tribe when you were
Mhm.
kind of going through this, and it takes a village, trying to deal with 3 young boys, and boys are just all over the place, in general, and then having this, because I'm sure you were not at your best through a
No,
lot of this. So tell me a
yeah.
little bit about kind of the tribe that you had, family,
Oh,
friends,
I'm
prayer
just
groups, all the above.
all of the above. My family was incredible. I always had someone with me at my infusions. My husband, I think, went to every single appointment but one with me, even if it was just a 10-minute quick check. He would meet me because my oncologist and plastic surgeon were in Boulder. He worked in Boulder, so he would just leave the office and be there with me. Like I said, even if it was a 10-minute to an hour checkup, he was always with me, which was so meaningful to me. And then my family, I was never alone at an infusion ever. And my friends, they're just we had people to take the boys everywhere. Even before the cancer diagnosis, I still need that village and that tribe. We had 3 boys in all the sports, and in a weekend we could have 3 baseball tournaments at 3 different cities, 3 different fields. So it was all of those things. I had a laundry fairy. My friend would come and pick up our laundry and do our
Oh,
laundry for us and then drop it back off. I mean, we had meals. The meal train was incredible. Just that support that allowed that it just helped me knowing that my family was taken care of. Well, because I had chemo every 2 weeks. And so that week I had chemo, I'd have 1 week on, 1 week off. And that week I was on, I was fine the day of and the day after. And then the next 3-4 days I was out for the count. Like I just couldn't do anything. So,
and it's things you don't even think about. Like I interviewed one woman and she said, somebody said, "Do you need me to come and walk your dog?"
mhm.
And it's things that you don't even think about.
Yep.
And people will ask, "Well, is there anything I can do? And what can I do for you?" And we don't always have an answer for that. So, I mean, did your laundry train be like, "Hey, I want to come do your laundry," or was that something that you saw a need for?
They suggested it, like, my husband and the boys could have done the laundry. I mean, the 14-year-old, they certainly could have done that, but they just wanted to do something. And I've been in both sides of it now, and I know how that feels. You just want to help so bad that you just, try and find something, some little thing. Even just the littlest things mean the world. Like walking a dog. I didn't have a dog, but during the day while the kids were at school, I probably would have needed a dog walker. So it's all those things that add up and just mean the world, absolute world to me, to all of us. I will never forget my 14-year-old. He said that, like he noticed as a 14-year-old boy the love and support that we had. He'll never forget that. And it's a hard way of seeing it and learning it, but I'm so grateful he saw it and felt that. I guess felt it. So,
And hopefully he's grown up to be a supporter of his friends,
yeah. Yeah.
as well. Those
Yeah.
are hard lessons, but incredible lessons, when we can have those for our kids to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Okay.
tough. Yeah.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit. I really want to talk about all of the things that you are now doing that were not even on your radar
Yeah.
beforehand. So let's talk a little bit about Love Heals, because this is fantastic. So were these chemo kits things that you had wished that you had that you didn't, or that you just saw a need for? Or tell us a little bit about how that all came about.
Yes. Yes. I'm gonna back up because the chemo care beauty counter leads to the chemo care
Okay.
kits.
All right, then let's go with beauty counter first.
So basically, when you're diagnosed like this, they're doing a lot of information gathering for cures and research. And so, how many questionnaires and interviews and things did I sit through being asked, what food do you eat? Do you eat organic? What laundry detergent? Do you know what's in your, personal care products? What ingredients are you using? All of these things I was bombarded with, not every appointment, but there were specific appointments. They were information gathering.
Okay.
Some things I could answer, some things I couldn't. I didn't know what was in my shampoo as far as ingredients. I didn't know that. The only personal care product I had probably paid attention to as far as ingredients at that time, was deodorant and aluminum in the deodorant, that it can cause breast cancer. That is the only, and maybe shampoo with parabens. Other than that, I had no clue. I trusted what was my household cleaner, Windex or whatever, I trusted the personal care products I was buying from Target or, MAC Cosmetics that I was using back then. Like I didn't know any of that I had to pay attention to the ingredients. Obviously food was a biggie. We ate fairly well, my kids love Doritos, and so does my husband. Like, they're not gonna stop eating those, but we were trying to understand organic food more and purchase that when we could. And, it is a cost difference, or it was more so back then, and things like that. But so that kind of spurred the whole lifestyle changes that I wanted to make. They were not as gung-ho as I was, because I'm like, no more Doritos, and I backed off, of course. But I remember feeling paralyzed in my kitchen, going, what am I going to cook? I can't eat this. I can't eat this. What am I going to cook? Because I was so afraid and so overwhelmed with what I was putting in my body at the time. And I just felt so out of control with my situation. So the changes we made obviously were food, exercise. I was always, all the questions, do you smoke? No. Do you drink socially? I'll have, yes, I exercise, I'm an average weight. Like I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do, none of that. I couldn't answer any of those as a, yes, that's me. So the changes we made were things like paying attention to our household cleaners, eating more organic. And then the personal care products thing came up. And at that time, a couple of years after my diagnosis, I found Beauty Counter, which was just starting out in 2013 as a clean beauty brand. And their mission was not just to make and formulate safer products that obviously are high performing and with safer ingredients, but their mission is to advocate for stronger regulations in the beauty industry on a national level. So this was huge for me in terms of my story and what I wanted to be a part of and have this purposeful work. After going through a diagnosis like that, you come out, or I came out going, okay, I need to do something purposeful and meaningful to me with my work. Not that I wasn't before, but it just needed to be more so now. And Beauty Counter fit that because of their mission and advocacy work that I wanted to be a part of.
And can you kind of share a little bit, like how many chemicals are banned in the US versus everywhere else in the world?
So yes. So starting with beauty, I decided, after watching this one video that they had produced within their first year of starting the company, I'm like, I need to be a part of this. And in that, I learned a lot of statistics, one of which was, and I'd heard this before, the European Union is more strict, and they regulate their personal care ingredient, or the ingredients in their personal care products, much more than we do. So they ban, at the time, they banned about, I want to say 1,200 ingredients. Now it's up to like 16 or 1,700. Canada is about 600. And the US at the time when I started was only, I believe, 15. We are now up to 30.
Woohoo!
I know. Big deal. So we are dangerously far behind, and have been dangerously far behind this ingredient regulation. And there's so much more in terms of just studying the, chemicals and what's in. Only I want to say 10 to 15% of the ingredients have been tested for safety. So, there's a lot out there that we are learning, that clean beauty is now in a daily conversation. Back then it was not. Today it is. This is more important to people. They're understanding more about the environmental hazards, all of the just sustainability and environmental hazards, and keeping our planet safe, keeping us safe. All of those things are more talked about now, and they have to be, because our environment is hazardous in a lot of ways. So
much of that is been linked to cancer.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And we're kind of at the mercy of the beauty industry. Yep. in many ways.
Yep.
And it's getting more and more difficult to find clean products.
Yeah. The FDA does not have, there's not much regulation in terms of them being able to pull a product off of the shelf if there are complications with it. For instance, they have it now, but they didn't have it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the power to pull those products off. It was left up to the company to be able to take their product away from the shelves.
Well, because a lot of those products aren't even regulated by the FDA.
No.
So they have very limited abilities.
Yeah. The good news is we now have MOCRA, the Modernization of Cosmetics Reform Act, that was passed in December of 2022. This is the first major law that was passed in the United States since 1938.
Wow.
Within the beauty industry and cosmetic industry. So this is huge. And Beauty Counter was a very big part of that. We have had multiple, I want to say 4 trips to Washington, D.C. to meet with congressional staff and ask them to support these bills that are up for approval in Congress. And MOCRA finally was passed in December of 2022. So
it's nice to know our government does good things once in a while.
Yes. It's happening because of the awareness.
That's fantastic. And you said that now Beauty Counter kind of led to Love Heals.
Yes. So shortly after I started, maybe I was a year and a half into it, a friend of mine out in California put out an email, I think, and was asking for donations for chemo care kits. And I didn't know what she was really talking about, but of course I was interested. I never had one during my treatment, but I was like, what is that? I want to help with that. Of course I'll help with that. So she was looking for just lotions or, lip gloss, Kleenex, anything you could put in a little, pouch to give to a patient. I said, well, I can take care of that. I got you. So I was able to ask my clients to donate lotions and lip balms for the patients. I think I got like 50 of each, and wow. I shipped her half. I said, I'm going to donate the other half here in Colorado. I'm going to take it to where I was diagnosed and treated. And so that was kind of the beginning. And I have kept and continued to do that. I've donated over 300, I want to say, chemo care kits. I've sent them out to other states, other hospitals and cancer centers in other states. And I've done a lot here in Colorado. And so that is just my give back project. Love Heals came from when I was at the Rocky Mountain Cancer Center. That was kind of their motto, if you will, in the infusion room, and the posters and the signs and stickers and everything. And I just love that. That was really, really encouraging for me personally. And so I took that and created these chemo care kits, and now I drop them off up there every, just depending on my collection. So it's really, really a special give back, because every time I left the infusion room, there was always something for me to take, a homemade card or some, home baked goods or scarves, anything, people just, I think just anyone, and then other survivors come back and leave people gifts just of encouragement. So that's what I wanted to do.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I personally never went through chemo, so I did not really get to experience that. And my radiation treatments were so few.
Yeah.
I actually just, I'm putting out an episode, a solo episode where I talk about survivor's guilt.
Yes.
And that because I didn't experience like all of the things, that part of me felt like I didn't really deserve to not call myself a survivor, but be able to take advantage of things. I don't know in your radiation treatments if like you got to bang a gong or something when you were finished with the last one. Or some kind of celebration, when you finish your last treatment.
Yes.
And like I didn't want to, like I didn't go through a ton of treatments. I was like, no, that's okay. And the tech looked at me and she's like, bang the gong, like you did this.
You did this. I would say you absolutely deserve that.
Right,
Absolutely.
exactly.
There's everyone's path is different from what I've learned. I've talked
Mhm.
to so many other breast cancer survivors, and we all have different stories, but they're all important.
Right.
No matter the stage or no matter the treatment, we have gone through something that I'm going to say 98% of us have been changed from that
Mhm.
diagnosis.
And every person's story, like everybody that I have interviewed, everybody that I've talked to, they could have the same type of cancer, the same stage of cancer, and the stories are still completely different.
So different.
They're just like we all have a common theme,
Mhm.
but all of our stories are very individualized, and
Yep.
they're all very deserving of all of it.
Yep. Yep. I have a cute story I can tell about our infusion center
Sure.
and the kits. So part of at the Rocky Mountain Cancer Center, when I first started, the receptionist there was the sweetest. She just became my BFF. Like, she was so kind and so gracious and so sweet. I just saw her every time, and I feel so much better. Um, and she told me, I think it was my second appointment, and it was like, she's like, "You know what we call chemo around here, don't you?" And I go, "No, I have no idea. I was just scared." And she's like, "Oh, honey, we call it liquid love." And I said,
Aw.
"Oh, wow. Okay, that just shifted in my brain what that whole treatment meant to me, right? Like, that helped me so much." And so I told my stepmom, I was like, okay, so here's something I'm going to take with me into my treatments. This is called liquid love now, not chemo, and there's like a skull, like hazardous, you know, marking on the bag, because you can't touch it, right? Like,
Right.
no one can touch this except the nurse. So my stepmom said, "Well, let's do this. Let's put heart stickers on the bag to transform the energy from this negative skull and crossbone, whatever it was on there that said hazardous material, to liquid love." And I just love that so much. And so we went in there to my first one, and she tried to put the sticker on, and the nurse came running out. She's like, "No, no, no, you can't touch that." And she's like, "I'm so sorry." And she's like, "Will you put this sticker on for us? We're just calling this liquid love instead of chemo." And so for that, I took that with me, that experience, and put that in the chemo care kit. I put in heart stickers, and I have a little card sharing with people about liquid love, and to
Oh
switch,
my
if they
gosh.
choose to switch the energy to make it into positive, loving, caring, versus the poison energy. So that
That
was
that
another.
is worth this entire conversation just for that. If you can just switch
Yeah,
your
it was huge.
thinking to something of light, that is wow.
It was huge for me. Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. It just got me. It's things like that got me through, that created this to give back.
Because I think we all need that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it can be so daunting and so depressing and so overwhelming, and just those little things that can change a moment can sometimes
Yep.
make all the difference in the
Yep.
world.
You have I had a specific doctor's appointment just to hear about the effects and learn all about chemotherapy.
I'm
And
sure that was fun.
my husband and my stepmom came, and I don't remember anything they said. Like, I couldn't even, you know, take in what they were saying, but they were taking notes and they were doing all the things, because it's so overwhelming. You're just like, "Oh my God," yeah. So that the stickers really helped me a lot.
Love that. I love that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Bats for a Cure. So I'm assuming that, well, you said your boys were all in baseball at the time.
Yes, yes.
So tell us a little bit about those tournaments.
Yeah, so we were a sports family, I should say. My kids wanted my ringtone on my cell phone to be the ESPN theme song, like, opening,
Yep.
da-na-na, from the Boy Family. But so yeah, sports are huge for our family, and my husband ended up helping to start a youth baseball league here in Broomfield as his volunteer job. He works in software, but as a volunteer job, they started a whole new league back when Josh was, I don't know, probably 11 or 12, our oldest. And then through that, I got my diagnosis. And after that, my husband's like, what if we hosted as our league a tournament and we gave back to a breast cancer foundation? And everything we do in this tournament goes to them, not everything, but a majority of it. You got to run the tournament and spend money to have the tournament.
All
but
the extras.
All the extras can be donated. And so there was Bats for a Cure. A lot of my friends helped to get that off the ground that first year. I think this was in 2012. So I was still, kind of doing the reconstruction and all that, but I was through the hard part of the treatment. So I think our first tournament was in 2012 and we raised $5,000. We had a silent auction. I think there were like 70 some odd teams that played here in the area, here in Boulder, Broomfield area. And then we just kept doing it. And that was, COVID kind of put a halt on that. But we now have, this year we're sold out. There's 175 teams. One year we had over 200.
Wow.
Problem is now we don't have enough umpires, or we would have more teams. I just know it. But the sweetest, coolest thing in the world is seeing these teams show up in pink hats, pink socks, pink belts. I mean, they spray paint their hair pink, like at this kickoff event we have on Friday nights, and we have silent auction, and we just have speakers to share their stories in the baseball world and all kinds of things. And so again, a blessing from our trials is Bats for a Cure. And, he was very much the leader and the driver of that because I was still kind of recovering. But he and I both discussed, and I want to make this clear, it was very, very important to us that the money that was used stay for the patients and be used for the patients. It's not to go to the corporation. And so in his interviews to talking to the foundations, he didn't talk to many, but obviously Susan G is on the list, right? Everybody knows that. And he spoke with them and specifically the Colorado organization, where I think it's 96% of that money is staying here in Colorado, helping the patients to get rides to their treatments, helping to buy a radiation machine in Pueblo. Those types of things is where this money goes to. And so now we're raising anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000 depending on the year. And yeah, it's pretty awesome how that.
I didn't know that you could do that. I didn't know that you could specify where you wanted the money to go, because that's huge.
That's
not going to pay corporate salaries or look for new drugs or things, that it's actually staying with the patient.
We asked the question. We said, it's our wish and not demand, but if we're going to work with you, we need to be guaranteed that this money go towards the treatments and the patients and the technology or research or any of that. Not obviously, you got to keep the lights on and things like that. I don't mind that for the offices and things, but it can't go out to corporate. That's that maybe a little bit, but not all of it. So.
And when is Bats for a Cure this year?
So it's coming up this year. We have our kickoff event Friday night, May 31st at the Broomfield Industrial Park is what it's called, BIP, right here in Broomfield. We'll have a silent auction. We have all kinds of baseball vendors, the glove lacing, the catcher's gear guy comes, hats, bats. I don't know if we'll have bats, but all the things that kind of revolve around baseball. We'll have a food truck. So it's just, and there'll be games. The tournament will start that night and there'll be games there and everybody dressed in pink. We have a hair cutter come and she buzzes hair and spray paints pink mohawks and all the things. So, and then they play their games that Saturday and Sunday and finish up. So
Okay. And can people like donate? Is there a website that we can put in the show notes if people
yeah,
want to
yes,
donate or?
I will get that. I will get that information to you. I'll need to ask Sean how that might work. And yeah, yeah. There's something else I was going to share about it, but it'll come to me. It'll come to me.
And then also, can people donate towards the chemo care kits too if they want to?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That I I can share information with you on that as
Okay.
well.
All right.
And that can go in the show notes too.
Yep. Well, I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah. So
Awesome.
people can help out if they want to. So,
Awesome.
all right. So I always like to kind of end with, what kind of advice, what would be your biggest piece of advice to give to someone who is like in the midst of or really just starting off on their, cancer journey after diagnosis or through treatment that really was most impactful for you that you would want somebody
Sure.
else to know?
Yeah. I think obviously, my faith got me through everything first and foremost. And my tribe, like finding those people. And, you hear from people. I heard from people that I hadn't heard from in how many years, but they, I ended up starting Caring Bridge. If you've heard of Caring Bridge,
Mhm.
I think that is a really wonderful resource for anyone going through any sort of traumatic, or just life situation to update people. It's very, the texting and the emails and the things in the beginning and trying to share information and get all that information out was overwhelming. And my friend told me about Caring Bridge. And so she started it for me, and then I would update it, or it was mostly me, but Sean would chime in too, and my friend would chime in. So,
And for those who don't know, Caring Bridge is basically like a blog
yes,
that anybody can sign into and read, your blog and kind of
yeah,
what's going on and updates and stuff. It
yeah,
is a fabulous resource for
it's
people who have tribe everywhere who, want to keep up with what's going on.
yeah. And it's wonderful to share the updates, but it was also so special to get the comments and the journals, notes to me and the family as well. So that's where I say, like, that's your tribe as well, is having just those people surrounding you and just allowing them to help. Like just let them in and allow them to help. And I would also say, try and find those silver linings, try and find those blessings, because they are everywhere. I told my friend, she came over a week after my diagnosis, and I sat at my kitchen table and I said, I know for a fact something good will come from this. And there has been so much good, but you have to be open to it, and you have to see it and be able to see it and accept it. And it's there, I promise you.
I love that. What a beautiful way. What a beautiful way to finish off.
Yeah.
So you get me that information. I'll put it in the show notes. And, if people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for people to be able to contact you?
Yeah, I think email is probably the best way.
Okay.
So I can share that now
Gotcha.
or
I'll
just in
put
the
that
show
in there
notes.
too. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Lynn.
Aw,
And I'm sure people are going to get just a wealth of love and good vibes from this episode. So thank you so much for joining me today.
well, thank you for having me. I'm so grateful our paths crossed, and another blessing. So
Absolutely. Me
yeah,
too.
thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay, see ya.
Bye bye.
Bye.